What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Switch Up Sports, where today, as you can see on the board, we are doing another bullseye. It is the NFL Teams Bullseye, where I am ranking the top 13 NFL teams heading into this next 2024-2025 season. So get it started off. At number 13 is the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts were one play away from making the playoffs last year with Gardner Minshew. Shane Steichen, the head coach, is a fantastic coach on the offensive side of the ball. Anthony Richardson coming back, I think, is a lot better player that Gardner Minshew is. I think Shane Steichen is going to get the absolute best out of him, as he got the best out of Herbert. He got the best out of Hurts. And I think Anthony Richardson, if he's able to stay healthy, the Colts are going to be special. And I don't really know if anyone is talking about the Colts with how good they potentially could be. Colts are at 13. Now, moving on to number 12 is the Falcons. And you're about to say, wait, the Falcons? Yes, Kirk Cousins off an Achilles, I understand. But Kirk Cousins knows how to deal the ball to wide receivers, and the Falcons have a ton of young talent. I think the Falcons are starting to put a little bit of this together, as you saw how well they were able to do with guys like Desmond Ridder at quarterback. The Falcons, they're not in a great division. You've got 2 free wins of playing the Panthers every year. I think the Saints are quite dysfunctional. There's probably 2 more free wins. So you're looking at automatically 4 wins. And now all you have to do is go 500 with the rest of your schedule. And I think the Falcons can do that. If Kirk Cousins can stay healthy, if he can be 80-90% of the guy that he was even just last season with the Vikings, he was on track to put up crazy numbers. So yes, the Falcons are at number 12. Now, moving on to number 11, it's the Bears. I am a Bears fan. Then this is hard for me to say because the Bears have essentially had 3.5 good seasons since 2005. They're a team that had an amazing defense throughout their entire history. But what they did last year was they really finally were themselves. They were the best defense in the NFL pretty much for the last 8-9 weeks of the season. And so now actually bringing in a lot of offensive weapons, being able to build that offense. You've got Keenan Allen, you've got DJ Moore, you drafted Rome Odunze, you brought in Swift, you've got Caleb Williams. Like, yes, Justin Fields was a great athlete, but Justin Fields wasn't a great quarterback. Caleb Williams as a quarterback is better than Justin Fields, and I think that we'll be able to see that this year. So if Caleb can be just an average quarterback, I think that the talent that's around him, the Bears are going to be very successful because of what they have on the defensive side of the ball. It's not really much to do with the offense. How good they are on defense, I think realistically the offense only has to go out there and put up 21 to 24 points a game, and the Bears realistically should win 10 or 11 games because they also have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So the Bears, they're at number 11. Now as we get to our 10, at number 10, it's the Bills. I think the Bills, it's really going to be Josh Allen. It's going to be the Josh Allen superhero show. He's going to put him on his shoulders, and he's going to win them a bunch of football games. They lost almost their entire starting defense. They lost Stephon Diggs, but I think what they figured out at the end of the year last year is Josh Allen is still a dynamic runner of the football, and they really started to incorporate Cook a lot more. So their rushing attack on offense is really good, and I think they're going to really rely on that, as they missed a lot of guys for injury at the end of the year last year, and McDermott figured it out because that's his side of the ball. So I think having a defensive-minded coach, I think they're going to figure out the pieces the same way that I talked about Shane Steichen figuring out the offensive side. McDermott's going to do that same thing on the defensive side of the ball. He can kind of plug and play a handful of different guys where they don't have to be star players for them to be really, really good in his system since he's a defensive guy. So I think Josh Allen is going to have to do some superhero type stuff, but again, the same reason I think the Bears are going to win a bunch of football games is the same reason I think the Bills can do it. I think the defense figures it out. I think Josh Allen can go out there and win a couple shootout games where he has those super, super high, crazy games where he just literally lights up the scoreboard, and then they win, 24-17 or 21-17 or 17-10. Like, they're built to do that. So the Bills, they're at number 10. Now, this one's probably the most shocking of the entire list, and that's the 49ers. The 49ers at 9 is going to catch all types of people off guard. And it's like, how can you put the 49ers that low? There's no way. They were just in the Super Bowl, and that's the key. They were just in the Super Bowl. And so now what you're starting to see, no Trent Williams. The fact that Trent Williams isn't there is the main reason why they're at number 9. If Trent Williams was there, this would be a different story. But Trent Williams not being there, when he didn't show up for the Redskins, he missed 8 weeks. It's not like, oh yeah, he's going to be. No. He missed 8 weeks of the season and then came back. What do you think he's going to do here? You think he's just going to sit around and, oh yeah, Trent's going to be here? Trent wants to get paid. He's the best left tackle in the league. They just played in a Super Bowl. This is the time. He needs to be paid. If Trent Williams isn't there, this whole thing doesn't work. So that's the main piece. Then Aiyuk is going to be traded. He's not really pretty much going to be there anymore. They're basically in agreements now to where now it's just finalizing the money options. But Aiyuk is essentially gone. CMC has a strained calf and don't know how severe that could end up being if it leads to different injuries, or how healthy he's going to be for the entirety of the season, with the fact that he's been remotely healthy. Almost, I don't think he's missed a game since he's been with the 49ers. But now it's a situation where if he's starting to get, injuries early in the season, what if those start to linger and now you miss a Christian McCaffrey for 2 or 3 games when you already have a loss of weapons? So I think the 49ers, they're going to figure it out because they still do have a lot of really, really good players on their team. But I think this offseason has been really, really loud for them. And no Trent Williams is not a good sign for the 49ers. And they're at number 9. Moving on now to number 8. This entirely has to do with health. It purely has to do with health, and that's the Bengals. If Joe Burrow is upright, the Bengals are going to be just fine. They're going to make it to the playoffs, and they'll be fine. If Joe Burrow is dinged and he's not being upright and he's going through injury problems, then the Bengals, they're not going to do it. They're not going to make it anywhere because that is their team. Joe Burrow is their team. And it has really nothing to do. Yes, Jamar Chase is fantastic. T. Higgins is fantastic. But realistically, when Joe Burrow is healthy and throwing the rock, the Bengals are a good football team. When Joe Burrow is any type of injured, the Bengals are not a good football team. So this one purely comes to, I don't know. I think Joe Burrow is going to be healthy this year. I think those were 2 random injuries he had last year. So maybe the haircut's different. Maybe the things change with his MO. And I hope he stays healthy because he's incredible to watch. He's a great quarterback. So you always wish for the best. You hope he stays healthy. But knowing it is a contact sport, that injuries do happen, I do have to drop him on the list for that. So Bengals, they're at number 8. Moving on now, number 7, another one that most people are probably going to disagree with, but that's the Rams. And realistically, when you look at it, Sean McVay is still the head coach. Fantastic offensive mind. Matthew Stafford is still there. Cooper Kupp is still there. Those guys all won a Super Bowl together. And that Super Bowl was recent, so it's not like, oh, that was like 10, 15 years ago, like a guy with, the New York team and Aaron Rodgers. It was recent. It was won in this day and age of football. So why they get doubted, I don't know. Yes, losing Aaron Donald was a big thing, but they've spent 4 picks on that defensive line. It's something that they've been ready for. It's something that they've been prepared for. And realistically, their offense is going to be very good. Puka Nacua is now going into year 2. He fits very well into their system. What they're doing in terms of rebuilding their offensive line, it is much better than it was a couple years ago. So if Stafford has time to throw the football, he's going to be able to deliver it. And so when he has time to throw the football, that means he's going to be healthier. A healthy Matthew Stafford is a very dangerous Matthew Stafford, as we saw when they won the Super Bowl a handful of years ago. So the Rams, they're looking a lot like that team. Look out for the Rams. The Rams are at number 7. Now, at number 6, a team that was ranked in the first seed last year, and that's the Jags. Yes, they were the first seed at one point in the season last year, and then Trevor Lawrence got hurt. And from that point forward, from that season, when Trevor Lawrence got hurt, they went and fell off. Everyone kind of like brushes it to the side. They were the best team in football. Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and then they lost a bunch of games. Where is the correlation, and why does no one talk about the Jags? I get it. They're, this Duval thing, but Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback. We've seen it. Yes, his numbers aren't. This is the issue when people like only purely look at stats and numbers and they don't actually watch football games. When you actually watch a football game and you see how he operates, it's like, wow, that's a great quarterback. And you can say the same thing even like with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes' numbers were not fantastic last year, but every game you watch, you're like, yeah, that guy's the best on the field. So Trevor Lawrence has that same aspect. The Jags are better than they were last year. They're now a little bit healthier. ETN looks like he's healthier, back, ready to go. And Trevor Lawrence, healthy, had them as a number one seed. So if he stays healthy for this year, as they added a little bit more weapons, this is a better chance. Now no one's really expecting them to go out there, be a number one seed, do all these crazy things. Now they can fly a little bit under the radar, and I think that's going to be fantastic for them. So the Jags, they're dangerous to watch out for, especially because no one's really talking about them as someone to be watched out for. So the Jags, they're at number 6. Now as we get into our top 5, and at number 5, we got to go to Green Bay with the Packers. They could have easily beaten the 49ers in that game last year in the playoffs. They just came off one of the most emotional victories the week before against the Cowboys, going to Dallas and absolutely destroying Dallas in Dallas, a place where they don't lose. Dallas does not lose at home. Dallas, over the last 2 seasons, I'm pretty sure has lost 2 games at home. They don't lose at home. So to go in there and to put up 48 points on them and just to blow them out the way that they did, that game was massive. And that next week, it was not that it was as much of a letdown, but it was something where they got a lot of experience from that game that now this year, I think they're the team that's like, okay, if they have it figured out at all, watch out. They're really young. They're all really young. They all played and gelled and have grown together for the last few years, but they're all still really young. So the fact that now we're starting to see that swing happen, they started to see it last year as what they did in Dallas, how well they played against the 49ers. They got that experience. They had a chance to realistically, I think, continue on and win that game. But it's like, if they win that game against 49ers, they're in the NFC Championship game. So it's like they're already right there. They're already knocking on the door. So I think this year they make that next jump. I think Jordan Love continues to expand, continues to see his actual capabilities. And now moving forward, like, yeah, the Packers are at number 5. As we get to number 4, we're staying in the same division. The brand new Lions. I absolutely hate it. Again, I'm from Chicago. I'm a Bears fan. So talking like I just did about the Packers and talking glowingly about the Packers, and now I have to do the same thing about the Lions, that should tell you how true and actually, wow, they actually are good, because they're the best offensive line in the NFL. Jared Goff, when he has time to throw the football, is phenomenal. And they play in a dome. So what are we talking about here? They have the best offensive line in football. If you have the best offensive line in football, pretty much pencil yourself in for a playoff spot. Period. So they're well constructed, they're well coached, and now they have a chip on their shoulder because they were right there last year. Now I'm not going to say should have won that game, but they were very close to going to the Super Bowl last year. Again, youngish team. Jared Goff has been there. He's been to a Super Bowl. He knows what it feels like. So this isn't going to be some type of, emotional letdown and regression year. He knows what it feels like. He knows what it takes to get there. And being that close, I think this year is their best chance. Again, the best offensive line in the NFL. Pencil them in. Lions, they're at number 3. Lions are at number 4, not number 3. Lions are at number 4. The Texans are at number 3. The Texans, I can't put them any higher than 3. CJ Stroud had a phenomenal year last year, but it was a rookie year. That's as high as they're going to get. They're at 3. They got a little bit better. They brought in Diggs. I think you're going to see CJ Stroud pop this next year because I think their defense got a little bit better, and I think they're going to continue to play that good, cohesive football. Again, back to the same reason I talked about with both the Bears and the Bills. having that defensive head coach, having that young, talented quarterback allows the coach to basically say, hey, we're going to set it up to where we'll control the game, and we're just going to give you a couple opportunities for you to go out there and be great, and you to show, and you to be fantastic. And that's exactly what CJ Stroud did last year. He was given a handful of opportunities to go and be great, to go be fantastic, and he hit and delivered on all those opportunities. It's the same thing that Patrick Mahomes does all the time. Patrick Mahomes isn't Patrick Mahomes because he can throw a ball 70 yards down the field. He's Patrick Mahomes because he makes the correct play all the time. So seeing this opportunity and seeing that cohesiveness that they played with all year last year, like the Texans already have that, like, yep, we're good. Like, don't make a mistake. Like, we're good. Like, I'm going to set you guys up. You set me up. Like, there's this nice back and forth that the offense and defense are playing with that a lot of teams don't do. And that's why we saw a lot of success with the Texans last year. But I think it's going to be better this year as they're now getting into year 2. CJ Stroud's into year 2. Year 2. So, like, it's year 2. There's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for learning. The Texans, they're at number 3. And at number 2, it's the Ravens. Lamar Jackson plus Derrick Henry. Good luck. That I realistically shouldn't have to say much else. You have Derrick Henry try to tackle a guy who's a defensive end and can run at basically a top speed over 25 miles per hour. Good luck. Then you have a guy like Lamar Jackson, one of the most dynamic players in the entire NFL, lightning fast, and then, oh yeah, by the way, can still throw the football. It's going to be really interesting to see teams play against him because I don't know which one I would try to do. To try to go and tackle Derrick Henry for the majority of the game, or to then be like, oh yay, they didn't give it to Derrick Henry, but Lamar Jackson has the football now. Like, that's a very scary dynamic to think of because of what Derrick Henry did for so many years in Tennessee. Like, he was their offense. Like, single-handedly, one player was their offense. So adding in a guy like that to an already well-constructed, well-built, like, that's the Ravens style of football. Like, they like running the football. They like playing with double tight end. They like just pounding the rock. So to be able to just go like, here, Derek, take the football, and like, I'm sorry. The teams that are in that division, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Browns, like, having to deal with Derrick Henry as like all of those games are already ramped up physically, like because of how those 4 teams play each other. But having a guy like Derrick Henry run the football 25 times is going to be a complete difference maker. And what it's going to open for the Ravens offense is actually kind of crazy to think about. So the Ravens, they're at number 2. And of course, at number 1, the back-to-back Super Bowl champs, about to be the 3-peat champs for the first time ever, the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. That's pretty much about it. I don't really have to say anything else besides those 4 guys. Those 4 guys are on the team. Yeah, they're a Super Bowl favorite, period. Hands down, no questions asked. Don't need anything else. So yeah, you want to add in Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. Yeah, those are fun pieces. It's going to be a lot like the early Tyreek Hill days. But they're still a great defense. And at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. That's what the Kansas City Chiefs are. They are those 4 pieces. Those 4 pieces, that's all you need. You've got an amazing offensive coach, maybe the best to ever do it, purely the most talented, not yet the GOAT, the best receiving player in playoff history, and realistically one of the most dynamic in terms of what he can do and how he's always open, always. And now, the best defensive tackle in all of football now that Aaron Donald retired. He was 2 for a long time. So, 3 bests and the best coach. Yeah, it's pretty hard to disagree with that one. So I've got the Chiefs at 1, and this is the NFL Bullseye. You've got the Colts at 13, the Falcons at 12, the Bears at 11, the Bills at 10, the 49ers at 9, the Bengals at 8, the Rams at 7, the Jaguars at 6, the Packers at 5, the Lions at 4, the Texans at 3, Ravens at 2, and the Chiefs at 1. If you aren't following already on our Instagram, it's at Hot Sauce Takes. But other than that, we will see you next week with our next podcast and our next video. We'll catch you there.